Hey, it's Brooklyn Lou the Skeptic. Wanted to come on live. I asked a bunch of Christian folks, asked them if they wanted to come on and chat. I don't see any, so maybe not, but I like to come on live once in a while to invite open dialogue, maybe to discuss the reasons people have faith in God, where they're coming from, and anyone else who may want to chat. Of course, you're invited. I like to hang out a little while, see if anyone wants to chat. If not, after a while, I'll take off. But again, my name is Brooklyn Lou the Skeptic on YouTube, and used to be a evangelical Christian. Now I am an atheist. I think pretty much I'm a naturalist. I don't believe in the supernatural at all. I'm not a expert, but I love to use common sense when talking about religious things. So if you want to chat, come on in. And if Christians want to talk about their faith, please come on in. I'm open to discussion. I'm always very calm, polite. I don't believe in putting people down, but I like to challenge ideas. And I like to be skeptical and ask the right questions, and I'm open for any questions, anytime, any place, anywhere. So feel free to come in. We'll hang out, chat, be friendly, and see what happens today. Happy Easter weekend to the Christian folks out there. Holy Saturday today. And I hope you enjoy your celebration tomorrow. I've been noticing more Christian scandals. We saw the arrest of, is it Tom Gary Casey, which is a very important event. We see that he was arrested and charged with 2 counts of the R word, and he was involved in a big ministry along with his mom and dad. And I'm glad to see that some of these church leaders are being held accountable. There was also the fellow last name Joyner. This guy was one of the founders of North Point Ministry, the ministry of Andy Stanley. Andy Stanley, of course, is the son of the great preacher Charles Stanley, who I used to personally follow years ago when I was a Christian. But that's a horrible thing going on there, because this minister, who was responsible for a curriculum that was spread out all over the place that children were being taught from, and he came under scandal. Another horrible, horrible thing. The abuse going on in mega churches is quite astonishing. Hey, Ambushed Apostate, nice to see you. I've been watching your video, and yes, Kent Hovind is a maniac. So that's for sure. That's going to be an interesting day over there in Kentucky. Yeah, I'm glad you joined me here. I'm lonely. You want to pop on, you can, there's a link. I was hoping to actually debate some Christians. I sent a link out in like all these different groups on Facebook that I have from another account where I have like 300 different Christian groups. And so far, nobody wants to debate today, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. So that Kent Hovind, I was watching him debate. I had it on while I was doing some other work, and he was debating the Kentucky Atheist. I seen that. So at least he seemed normal in that debate, not as unhinged as he seemed when you called him. Thanks, Ambushed. We'll see what happens. See if any willing participants are willing to step up and debate an atheist. Oh yeah, this totally dishonest. That's for sure. That is for sure. But he's got so many years of experience debating, and that comes across. But of course, he's crazy and he's on the wrong side of the issue. But he's well aware how to present his case and also how to trick people. So he's very crafty. Yes, exactly. It's a total misrepresentation and manipulation of facts. That is for darn sure. And that's why he's so tricky. But he's had like hundreds and hundreds of debates. I mean, I remember him debating when I was a Christian more than 12 years ago. And he was debating very big debates. So he's very familiar with that type of setup. So, yeah, he's not easy in a debate because he throws out so much garbage and so much nonsense and so many things at the same time that a guy like Kentucky Atheist, he's going to have a hard time just rapidly refuting each and everything he says, and that's what's so difficult about a guy like Kent Hovind. Yep. Oh, and one last thing before you go, if you hear me, I did see, looking at your chat with him, the last one, he's definitely dangerous. And I don't think he's going to do something. I doubt it, but he's got a mentality that is dangerous, and he's unhinged. That's for sure. Ah, yes. Yeah, going to his door, I'm sure he would he'd probably have be armed or something of that sort because he's that type, you know. But nobody's going to his door, so I think he'll be okay in public. At least I hope so. So with nobody here, let me just chat a minute. Um, I think I want to express some feelings about mega churches, because I've been following mega churches for quite a while now, and I can't believe what has happened in this country, where we let religious people just accumulate incredible amounts of money, and we sit and we watch it, and they abuse people while they're doing it, and we see it time and time again. And I don't like to get all involved in what goes on in ministries, and I certainly don't have the inside information on all these things. But all you have to do is look at the news every day, and you could see the corruption that is going on at these big churches. And it becomes very obvious that these people running some of these very large mega churches are simply corrupt businessmen. I don't even think they care about what they're pushing. I just think they know it's a winning formula. I think they know it's a winning business model. So what you'll see is multimedia presentations that are designed to lure people in. And of course, they get them on the giving thing. Some use tithing, and it becomes a money machine. And it's just so bizarre to me that so many people get taken in by this scam, because it is a scam. And so many people who just want to be entertained, that amazes me. It's like when I was a Christian, and it's been a long time, but I wasn't looking to be entertained every week. I was hoping actually to learn the Bible, stuff like that. But today, Christianity has become a business that is driven by consumers who consume a product. And that product is just a product of entertainment. It's staging. I mean, these mega churches spend, it's not unusual for them to spend $500,000 just on setting up a proper stage. And they're able to do this because they get the money, they get backing of companies, they get the backing of very rich people, and they get the backing of grandma, who puts in her little bit of money every week. And they're happy to take it. And they build multimedia empires. And it's just disgusting to me to watch. Right now, while I'm just talking, and this is not, formal, but I know of churches that totally use their staff. They manipulate people in their staff and abuse them to where they are traumatized. Some of these staff members, when they leave the church, are forced to sign NDAs to get even a severance package that they're supposed to get. All right. But the church will try to hide the horrible things that it does. And it's terrible. I mean, I'm going to say one church I'm familiar with, but I'm not going to give details that might be, I don't know, something I I can be pushed on, but these are things I know. All right. And some of it's public information. But the biggest church in the United States for evangelicalism is Life Church. And they have a very good reputation. The Life Church has over 50 campuses around the United States. And somehow it's kind of strange because they are the biggest in the country. They're bigger than Joel Osteen. They're bigger than all of these well-known ministries. And yet, in some ways, they keep a low profile because they don't like to be very controversial. And they're right down the middle when it comes to things like trans rights, and they're kind of playing it very conservative, so they don't really get exposed very much. But here's a church that brings in over $500 million a year. $500 million. Okay, and they're building incredible wealth, generational wealth for the very top leadership. And these leaders are not really doing this. Let's say it doesn't appear for the sake of God. They're doing it like all of these charlatans to build incredible generational wealth for themselves. And they hide behind trust funds and things that they keep from the public. I mean, you very rarely are going to know where these people live because their houses are mansions, right? And I know what they're doing, at least some of what they're doing, and I can't reveal some of this, right? Because it's just not right time and I'm not the person to do it. But this church has many, many campuses where pastors are using very aggressive mind control tactics, even amongst the rest of the staff. And it is abusive. It's emotionally traumatizing to people. And I think their day is going to come. So I'm watching for it. It's kind of like looking to see when Christians may rise up, because it always takes Christians to rise up in order for a church that is corrupt to be exposed. Because if an atheist or a secular person says anything against a church, it's always considered of the devil. Okay. And churches get a lot of support within the political community as well. And they're very powerful with their connections with media, and they will crush someone who comes against them. This is their tactic. They are very aggressive and can crush a small person who comes against them. So what it takes to expose them is it takes other Christians to speak out. And we're starting to see that amongst a lot of churches. Once the Christians themselves speak out, it becomes a story, right? And when it's a story that Christians are talking about, then some of these churches are held accountable, right? And I'm hoping to see some exposure on the biggest church in the United States and how they operate. And I'm hoping to see that this year, because there's a group of people out there that know about this stuff. I mean, there's a group of former employees and staff members who know full well that the Life Church isn't what they say they are. Okay, the biggest church in the United States, taking in over $500 million, tax-free, building their personal wealth to the extreme and to the max. I think that their day will be coming with some of these other mega churches because the Christians are getting sick of it. That's going to help, I think. Yes, getting rid of religion will not solve this problem. Well, yeah, I think that there's corruption all over the world because human beings are capable of being corrupt. So I don't disagree with that. It's not about, Christians being more corrupt. I don't think that. I think that they're equally as corrupt. And what I really have a problem with is not that they have corrupt people, because any organization might have corrupt people, but it's literally the scam of saying they represent God. I mean, I don't believe in a God, so that's not, something I believe in. But there are millions and millions of people who do believe in the Christian God, and they're being duped. They're being fooled. They're being scammed. Okay, and it's sad and pathetic when people stand up there and they speak charismatically about how God told them something. And God didn't tell them jack shit. Okay? They're just sitting there creating stories that they think will sell to the consumers that buy their shit. And their shit is religious garbage. Right? And that sickens me more than just a company that's corrupt, because they're using God. Right? And even though I don't believe in God, it's like pathetic to see. And that's my really hard thing with these mega churches and corrupt Christians. It's the gullibility of the people who go to these churches and sincerely give their money, and they are being scammed. And they're victims, and it bothers me. Yeah, absolutely. Secular groups do pull the same type of scams. Fully aware of that. But there's something more insidious to me when you use the name of God and Jesus, and you flaunt yourself as being special, that you hear from Jesus. And meanwhile, behind the scenes, you may not even believe in Jesus. That's how fake these people are. That's the fakeness of these people. They are literally out just to make money, and they're selling garbage to people, and they're victimizing people. And you see it every day in the news. I mean, literally almost every day there is a story about a corrupt pastor who was abusing people. Okay, and that is just horrible. And to me, it brings the level of, I guess, ugliness to another level. I mean, I can understand a guy on Wall Street, and not that it's good, but I understand it a little more. A guy cheating the system, insider trading. Okay, I can understand that to some extent. It's American greed, right? It's greed and it's no good. But for crying out loud, being a tax-exempt religious organization and lying to everyone every day and manipulating and taking money from people who sincerely think you represent a God, that's another level of sickness to me. So that's kind of my feeling on that. It's why it makes me very upset about it. American exceptionalism. Yeah, what does that mean nowadays? I don't know. I mean, are we exceptional in America? I think there's some exceptional people. That I do think. You know, there's some wonderful companies, exceptional people. But there's a whole lot of corruption too. So, you know. Well, you know, I do think it's again, there's corruption in the human mind. So, yeah, corruption is everywhere. But you don't think it's a little extra insidious to imply that you represent a god and, and use that as your scam to bilk people of their money and to build financial empires for yourself? You don't think that's another level of insidiousness? And blinogens, I don't know where you're coming from as far as you know, your belief system, if you have any at all. I don't know. I mean, I'm enjoying reading your comments, but the thing is, these churches are literally abusing human beings for gain. Okay, they're abusing human beings. You got to let that sink in and see how corrupt and just horrendous that is. And doing it in the name of Jesus. That's a really low thing to do. That's extremely low. And it's going on every day in America. Churches are abusing human beings. Not all, because I always got to be clear about that. I do not think all churches are doing that. But many, many are. And it seems to be the bigger ministries are doing that. Most of the time, your small church, they're more sincere. They're trying to get out their message of salvation that they think is going to help people. All right. That's a different thing. And I don't have any problem with that. I have a problem with so-called Christians who are in business and using a business model when they are tax exempt and using that business model to dupe people for great financial gain. And I have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with the sincere guy preaching the gospel and trying to help people. I don't have any problem with that. So that's where I see a big difference. Right? I know of very sincere Christian people. So I'm not against Christian people. I don't believe in Christianity. I think it's false. But that doesn't mean I'm against Christians. But when we see Christians just duping their followers, okay, and just taking millions and millions of dollars and running for the cover of PR campaigns and smear campaigns when someone comes out against them and trying to crush them and make their lives miserable just because they're speaking the truth, that's despicable. So hope I made myself clear on that stuff. Hey, Zealots Den. David, I'm glad to see you. Right. I was speaking with someone the other day that you did a thing with, and that was Michael Beverly. I did a show with Michael Beverly that he's going to have out in about, I think, the end of next week. And I actually found Michael Beverly from your channel, David. And that was when you were talking to him, and he explained to me when we were doing our little show that it was on both streams, but I saw it on your stream because I've been following you, and I have you as I subscribe to you. Before I subscribed to Michael Beverly, I found Michael Beverly, from your channel. Yeah, David, I don't have any problems with you. And I want you to know something, David. I do very, very speak against what you believe, but that's not speaking against you as a person. And you could speak against what I believe every day, and I don't mind it. All right. I think that the best we can do is exchange ideas and to be open to hearing what other people have to say. And you don't have to agree with people on everything. All right. I think that that's lost in America, where people are just taking sides and they're just going to war with the other people. And I'm never going to be at war with you, Zealots Den. But some of the beliefs, I have to push back against that. Right? Because I don't believe it. So understand that. Right? But you're free to believe it. And I would never want to take your rights away to believe what you do. Right? And that's the best we can do, I think, is be fair to people, respect people, respect them as human beings, regardless of what they may believe. I judge people, David, on their actions. All right. How they treat people. Those are the things that are important to me. I don't really care what people believe. But I do think what people believe impacts how they behave. And that's what I'm trying to do on my channel. I'm trying to get people to see a different way of thinking, something that they may not have thought of before, and try to open minds. And that's pretty much all I'm doing. Right. And you got to be a little controversial to open minds sometimes. I think you would agree with that. And I don't have any, I tried to put this out there but I don't have a big following here, as you can see. But I want to engage with Christians. I'm not running and hiding from Christians. I want to be open and have dialogue with Christians. All right. I put this out there inviting any Christians that want to come up and comfortably, friendly debate the existence of God. Right? I did that because I want to hear why people believe in God. And I want to know what is the anchor that keeps them in this faith. What is it? All right, that fascinates me. It really does. And that's honest. It does fascinate me because I was a Christian and I didn't stay in because I felt I found truth elsewhere outside of the faith. And my goal is to understand truth as best I can. And I know full well I'm never going to have all truth. To me, that's an impossibility. And I know I'm limited, but I want to know as much truth as I can. All right. So Blinogens, do you have a belief system or no? Who is the opponent, Lou? SBC Cave? Anybody. I just invited anyone who wants to talk about faith and the existence of God. I was hoping to have someone step up, come into the group and have this discussion. But so far, no one wants to do that, but that's okay. I know it can be difficult, and it's not for everyone to be questioned. All right, but I'm open to any question. So anytime a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, and anything, any belief system whatsoever wants to ask me questions, I'm willing to do that. In fact, I'm willing just to answer questions, even if it means I don't have to ask questions back. Okay. So if anybody wants to step up and just ask me questions, I'll answer to the best of my ability and to my understanding. And I don't even have to ask you questions about what you believe if you like that sort of thing, where you could just ask me question after question after question, and I will answer questions. And if I don't know an answer, I'll say I don't know, because it will be because I don't know. That's why I would say I don't know. Right. But even that, if any Christians want to step up and just ask me questions, I'll take the best questions you have and give it my thoughts. And I don't even have to counter and ask you tough questions, because the one thing that I find is a lot of Christians don't really want difficult questions. I'm sorry to say that, folks, but that's my experience. SBC Cave, let me put in the link, and you could ask me anything. I'm totally open. And if I get something wrong, it's okay, because I'm telling you, I don't know everything anyway. I have a high school education, by the way. I don't claim to be an expert in anything, right? But I have common sense. I'm well read, and I take these things seriously. So I don't feel like I know nothing or have nothing to give to the discussion. So Let me put this in. That's the link. Yeah, it's tough to have your belief system questioned. I get it, right? But I think it's important if you want to be honest. I mean, when I was a Christian, by the way, I didn't really like people questioning my belief system because my identity was there. So it's a difficult thing, but I mean, eventually I started questioning myself. Let me let SBC Cave in here.
Can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, how are you today?
It's good to talk to you, Lou. It's been a long time.
Yeah, I remember you. I don't remember like your system or your belief or lack of belief because I talk to so many people and see so many comments that I forget. But I definitely remember you engaging with me some lives.
So, yeah, I don't know how much time I have to spend in here because I got to watch my daughter. I'm just me and her in the house today and got to do some housework and stuff. But um, I guess I'd like to start where you said you feel like you found the truth. I guess what is your standard to say something's true or untrue?
Yeah, good question, and I'll definitely. I mean, I don't think I have found the truth, so maybe I'm, you know, not expressing myself clearly. Right? I don't think I've found something. You know, what I do know is I strive each and every day to know as much truth as I can. Okay. So I don't feel I've arrived anywhere, so to say, like I'm some sort of an enlightened person. None of that. I don't feel any of that. But I do feel like an honest person that's seeking truth as best as I can determine it.
Okay, that's fair enough. Um, I'll go to another question that I've kind of had with you for a while. What is your standard to say X is moral or X is immoral?
Right. I definitely have given a lot of thought to that. And to me, the morality issue is very simple. Right? And this is my standard, and I don't think everyone has the same standard. In fact, I know everyone doesn't have the same standard. Okay, because if you talk to different people, they have different ways that they establish what they feel is moral or immoral. But for me, I establish it by simply asking myself, do I think whatever it is I'm considering is something that is good for people, whether it be myself or somebody else, or whether it's harmful to people, whether it be myself or someone else. And that's
Okay.
simple as it gets for me. And that's
Okay.
all I do. I don't go to anything else. I don't go to other people. I mean, I don't go to an authority. I am my own authority. So
Okay. So, what makes your moral authority more um, more important or better than someone else's?
I don't feel that way. I don't feel my morality is better than another person's. I think it can be different than another person's. All right. I don't think that we have the ability to say, well, this is so much better than something else. I have personal morality, which I've explained, what I go through in my mind and how I determine what I think is moral or immoral. But I don't think I am the end all on that at all.
So based on that line of reasoning, is it fair to say that there was nothing morally wrong with the Holocaust because plenty of people thought that they were okay in their moral system and their moral framework, that they thought that that was okay? So why is your moral framework better than their moral framework?
I mean, I struggle with this idea of mine is better than somebody else's, right? That type of thing, I don't really fully understand what that means. And I'm being straight up. I mean, to me, the Holocaust was wrong. Now, were there people who thought it was right? Yeah. I mean, that's just a fact, right? It's a brute fact. There were people that thought it was okay. All right. I'm not one of those people. So
you wouldn't call those people wrong?
yeah, I would call them wrong.
But on
Because
what level do you have to say that they were wrong when you say that, it's all stardust bumping into stardust? If they think it's right, then they think that it's good and it's actually can advance society. That was their whole point. Like you said that even on a level, you could say that you could agree to some point, because you said if it's good for people, then it's moral. So, they
yeah,
would say that that's good for people. That's good for society. That's how they try to build their society.
yeah, yeah. But that's not. I'm not one of those people. In my interpretation, which is I think most of humanity at this time, maybe not when it was going on, because I think there was some, a lot more disagreement at that time in Germany. But in my understanding, this is completely harmful to human beings. So it is as clear as anything to me. It's totally clear that that was wrong. Now, is my opinion going to make a difference? Certainly not now. I wasn't alive when that was going on, right? But I certainly, if I could go back in time, I would have wished that people would have thought like I am about it. But it was before I was born. And not that I would even have any influence over such a thing.
So, what if it's today? That moral framework still doesn't work, because if a majority opinion doesn't mean something's good.
Yeah.
That's the point of the conversation. What is good? Like, we use the word good, but if at the end of the day we can't agree on what is good and what is bad, what's the point of even using the word?
Well, good. What's the dictionary definition of good? To me, it is what I'm talking about. That's the way I would see the word good. Is it something that is harming people? Is it something that is helping people? Or it could be neutral. It doesn't have to be either one. It could be just neutral,
But
right?
that's still subjective, because Jeffrey Dahmer thinks eating people is a good thing.
Yeah, and I can't change that, can I?
So
I'm
okay.
responsible for my own actions, and I'm responsible for my own thoughts. All right, whether Jeffrey Dahmer thinks it's okay to eat people or not is on him. It doesn't matter if I declare that it's not right to eat people.
It does
I
matter
mean,
when Jeffrey Dahmer's in your house and he's about to eat you. or the society we live in. It matters as a society. As a society, we've came together and decided things are good and bad.
And we do that.
Right.
We do that
So
right now. We don't need any other, we don't need a God to do that. We do it
you know,
now.
I didn't say that, but at the same time, um, just because you legalize things doesn't make it right. But I guess
No,
we're almost going in a circle here. But
because the reason I want to maybe just ask you this, can you understand the reason we're going in a circle?
I would say mainly because we're arguing on two different sides of the fence. But
Well,
um,
I think it's circular, like you said, because you're talking about morality, and you seem, as far as I could tell, seem to feel that there is this thing that we call morality that every human being on the planet can agree upon. And I'm telling you, that's just not the way it is.
no, that's not my position. I've actually really I haven't revealed my position too much. I've kind of just probed yours.
You can
But
keep probing.
yeah, so I guess maybe a better way to approach the conversation and maybe change topics a little bit is my question to you would be, um, do you can you point to anything objective in this reality?
You mean like in the world we live in?
Just in the entire plane of our existence, can you point to anything that is objective?
Yeah,
Okay, can you give me an example?
of something objective.
Yes.
Um, I feel things like gravity, mathematics. Um, those would be examples of things I think are objective. That's not it though. I mean, to me, objective would be anything that is proven to be true at all times and has never been proven to be false. So I think that would be what I consider objective.
Okay. There's a few
And
different.
mathematics has been proven to be true, has never been proven to be false. And the same thing with gravity. Now, if it's proven to be false, then it would no longer be an objective fact. It would be into a different category completely.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Um, so building on that, do you have a framework on which you use to prove if something's objective or subjective?
All right, now I do, right, but I'm not an expert, let's say, on science. And science would be one way to prove something is objectively true. Right. But I'm not a scientist. Right. So I don't want to say that I have perfect understanding of what is true and false, but I use common sense and my own cognitive ability on a day in and day out basis. That's what I use. I know I'm not studying every little thing I encounter and figuring out scientifically whether it's true or false. But for the most part, I'm using my own cognitive ability and my own senses.
Okay. All right, Lou. Well, I have asked all the questions that I can for now, but I really appreciate your time.
I appreciate you stopping in.
All right, you have a good Resurrection Sunday, Lou.
Okay, good. You too. My day will be probably smoking some pot and
Hey, I'm not opposed to that. You have a good one, buddy.
You too.
All right, bye.
That was very nice. I appreciated that. And anyone else want to ask questions? I'll try to just answer the questions. All right. Objective, subjective, that's something that comes up all the time. And I hear about that constantly, right? Objective, subjective. People put their own meanings on these words too. And it is a complicated subject, whether something is objective or subjective. So, but that was very pleasant. I thank SBC Cave for stepping up. That was fun. Anyone else want to step in? Of course, you're welcome. Let's see. Blinogens, the objective argument. Yeah. I think he did think morality is objective. It certainly seemed to me like where he was coming from. But I'd rather just answer questions without pushing back too much. Because, like I said, it can become a real debate and argumentative sometimes pretty quickly. And I'm not looking to argue with people, but I do like to exchange ideas. And ultimately, people are going to think what they think. And that's subjective. That's something that I don't like. I don't really get about this objective thing. All right. Ultimately, we're human beings and we have a brain and we're going to think about things and we're going to make decisions. And those decisions, they have to be subjective because it's us making those decisions. Right? We're not perfect. The only way it would be totally objective is if we are perfect, and we're not. So whether it's a religious person making a decision or an atheist making a decision, it doesn't matter. It's still subjective because it's coming from a subject, which is ourselves. All right. Now, are there objective truth? I think there is. But are they perfect? I would say no, because they're always subject to the information that we have, like gravity. It's proven to be true, right? And it's as true as we can know truth. But is it possible within some time we come up with something that suggests we don't know it well? It's possible. But until then, I'm willing to say it's objective truth. Math, I'm willing to say that's objectively true. But is it possible in some future time where we find out that some things we know to be true were not really true? I would say, yeah, that's possible. So, but I'm certainly willing to say it's objective now. So I'm not fighting objectivity. I'm just saying that we're not saying an objective truth just because we think something. That's not objectively true. Our thoughts are not objectively true. And that's where I see an issue with religion personally, is I think that a lot of religious people think because they believe something that is objectively true. And a belief cannot be objectively true. Okay? It can be true because a belief can be true or false, but a belief in and of itself is not objectively true. So if I believe that there are pink elephants flying through the sky, that is not objectively true just because I believe it. Just isn't. I could insist it's objectively true. I could say it's objectively true for me. I can argue that it's objectively true, but it's not objectively true. It's not been proven to be true. So I hope that kind of crushes that thing, that making it clear what I think about that, I hope. Yeah, I think there are many things that exist that we don't know why. I think that's true. You know, we don't know everything. I mean, that's obvious. Gio, how you doing, Gio? Glad to see you. Yes, that is my view of it, Gio, is that belief usually comes first within most religions. That's why it's faith. I don't see any way around that. It is faith because it cannot be proven to be true. I mean, that's as true as it gets to me. You know, that's truth. Right? Religions use faith and believe by faith. They cannot prove these things, because if they proved it, faith would not be required. And that's as clear as can be in my way of thinking. It can't be any clearer than that. So yes, Ambush, we had one theist step up. I had a nice conversation about objective morality and subjective morality. Was basically the conversation. And this thing with morality being objective is particularly odd to me. I mean, particularly odd because morality is obviously something that is not physical, right? And it's obviously something that is determined in our thoughts, okay? And our thoughts have to be subjective. So the idea that morality is objective seems particularly strange to me. And I wish someone can maybe better explain that in a way that I could understand. I mean, if you're thinking something, it's subjective. And am I wrong about that? I mean, morality is something in the mind. It's something that has to come from a mind. Okay, if you're dead, like really dead, like no consciousness at all, there is no way you have morality. Okay, morality does not exist for you. So morality comes from the mind, even if it was the mind of God. See? I mean, even if you stretched it that far and said there was a God and he had a mind and he said something about morality, it would still be subjective to the God. So the idea that morality is objective, to me, is just not true. It doesn't hold up to scrutiny. Yes, Gio, that's, if you have objective facts and you have things that are proven, there's no faith. There is no faith. I mean, I literally live in a real world and I know certain things are true and I don't need faith at all. Okay? I only need faith to believe things I cannot know are true. I mean, that's something that is as clear as can be to me. You know, I don't need faith to believe that this can is real. It takes no faith on my part at all. Right? It only takes faith for me to believe something that cannot be proven. Like, well, the can is real, but the can last night flew to Jupiter, came back, and it did it all on its own. And I believe that. That would be faith. And I can insist it's true. And I can insist and say, well, I really, really believe it. But until it's proven to be true, it's not a fact. It's a belief. And it seems to me that religious people struggle with that. It's like they just seem to think, I believe something, therefore it is fact. It's crazy. Jesus, the way, the truth, and the life. Fancy monkey. Yeah, I agree with Fancy Monkey. But Jesus, the way, the truth, and the life. Love your name here. And I am looking to talk to Christians. And here's my position today. And I'll stick to it. Okay? If you want to come in to the chat live and talk to me, you can ask me any question you want. And if you don't want pushback, I'll simply answer the question in the best way I can. If you want to debate, that's fine. Let me know and I can give pushback or ask you questions. But if you just want to ask me questions because you don't want any pushback, that's also acceptable to me. You see, I have nothing to hide. Nothing at all. I'm just a regular guy, and I may not have the answer. And if I don't, I'll tell you. And you might be able to make a point that might influence me because I'm not closed-minded. So if Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, if you'd like to come in, you could ask me questions. And if you want a more robust debate, just tell me when you come in, because I'll do it either way. Here's a link. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. I think you could come in and just talk without a camera, I think. Oh, if you don't have a mic, then no. I mean, you need to be able to speak. But you're closed-minded when it comes to Jesus. Okay. I suppose you do believe in Jesus, but you're saying that Jesus is a fact or can be proven or whatever. But Glad you admit you're closed-minded. It's okay. I'd rather hear I'm closed-minded than, oh, I'm open-minded, but really you're not. I prefer truth. Okay. If people want to talk, let's talk truth. Okay. Let's talk truth as we know it. As we know it, we may be wrong, but let's say the truth as we determine it to be. And then we have a starting point. But if we're going to bullshit each other, and if we're going to lie and cheat and manipulate, then it's a useless conversation, right? You believe the Holy Bible word for word. Good for you. What can I tell you? Dark light delirium. Hey, how are you? Glad to see you. You don't want to suck the Jesus dick. Me neither. And there are a lot of people out there sucking the Jesus dick, including a lot of men. Yeah, well, a troll is okay to me as long as they're real people. I don't like bots because they're fake, obviously. But if a real person wants to sit there and say silly things, that's okay as long as they're a real person. Iman, that's okay too. No problem with what you believe. If you want to come in and discuss it, what you might believe, you're welcome. Or if you just want to ask me what I believe is okay too. Just drop the link if anyone wants to come in. Don't be troll phobic. I hear you. I know this. I have gone into some Christian chats, and the minute I disagree, I become a troll. And I mean, I know that the meaning of troll has drifted around a little bit, but in my channel, a troll is someone who is fake. That they're kind of like a bot. It's those burner accounts, they have a use, in the world of the internet. See, the thing is, when you're doing lives, and I'm certainly new to it, and it's something I enjoy doing, okay, especially when there's people to talk to, right? But when you're doing a live, a lot of people, I think, are overly concerned that somebody might make them look bad. And I don't have that fear. So for me, I don't care if someone makes me look bad. It's just not a big deal. Right. Let me get you in here. Hey, how are you, brother?
How's my
Oh, your mic is never really that strong, but I think I can hear you.
I'm pretty good, dude. Hey, I had a question to ask you. I was wanting to know if you might be willing to help me on the tech side to host my next episode of Theology Council. I have a schedule for May the 10th, which is a Saturday. It's gonna be a Saturday night.
What would that entail?
I would just need you to help run all the tech stuff for me. Mitch can't afford me anymore. He's going back to doing some covert shit for the military.
Well, I'm not much of a techie. I mean, I use StreamYard, so it gives me the ability to do some stuff like I'm doing right now, you know. But
yeah, that's all we'd be doing. It's just doing what you're doing right now. Start doing it on my channel, pretty much.
how could I do it on your channel? Because that I'm not sure.
I would have to give you all my passwords and stuff to get into my account, and you just get into my account like you're me. You know what I'm saying? And then you would just go to let me in, just like you did right now for your account.
Do you know if it works like that in terms of I have a StreamYard account? My StreamYard account would work the same way if I'm on your account?
I don't know details about it because I didn't know that. I just know that when Shark did it, he got all my information in my account, and then he got into my accounts, and then he hosted the help codes. But I just wondering, I got to find someone to do with the tech guy. Oh, hey, check it out! I got Godless here has agreed to come on for my next show. At the date because he's got a super busy schedule. I want to run the tech. I'll find someone to run it. But if you want to come on the show, just let me know. It's the Godless Engineer, the Apostate Sisters. I have spiritual lead to get them on. I might possibly be getting Durante. I might possibly getting Jesse on Fire, which is a really big MMA channel on YouTube.
Jesse, yeah, I don't know if I ever told you, but I'm an MMA fan and I bet on MMA every single week. And I'm familiar with you're talking about Jesse on Fire?
Yeah, Jesse on Fire. Well, I'm gonna get. I'm close to getting him as a guest. I'm talking to him right now in emails, and he hasn't fully agreed yet, but he's considering coming on the show.
Let me give you my email.
Okay. I already have it.
Oh, okay.
I already have it. Yes. I was just about to send you an email, but I saw you on the live, and I'm like, might as well hop on the next live, you know?
Yeah, if you send me an email with the date and the time, and I could try to pencil it in, schedule it in. But I want you to know I'm not much of a techie guy when it comes to running like shows and stuff. I mean, I could do what I'm doing now.
Yeah, that's what we do. Is what you're doing right now. And we're not going to have any more than 8 people. But I'm going to have a really nice, I'm going to have a really interesting guest list. Like I said, we're going to have some great guests come on. I'm going to write a great content itinerary. But you're the one of the few people I can think of to ask, not just because of your tech skills, just because you're one of the few people that I get information. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, send me an email. I'm going to make sure. I don't have much of a schedule, all right? But I got to check. This is just how I run my life. I have a girlfriend who keeps my schedule, all right, because she puts it on her cell phone, like if I have to do a meeting and stuff.
Yeah.
As long as I'm free, which I'll let you know on email. Yeah, I could set aside a couple of hours, 2-3 hours.
Right. Yeah, because it's gonna be a nice show. Like I said, godless engineer. We got the Plastic Sisters for sure. Me, I got this. She's a spiritual lady. She's like a medium. She's got a pretty big channel in that space. So I'm getting together a pretty interesting list of people to get together to talk about stuff.
Yeah,
I'm really trying to get you and Durante. I'm really trying. Durante, right?
Durante,
you know Durante?
Yeah, I mean, I've met the Apostate Sisters, as you probably know, online, of course. And Durante, I would love to
I'm
meet
really
online.
trying to get you and Durante together. You guys will be a great team together. You and Durante.
Yeah, I know he's a pot smoker, right?
Yeah. I want to get together, and you guys make sure to come with a blunt or a joint. And when you come my show, we're gonna have a smoke session. Everyone make sure to bring a blunt or a joint. We're gonna have a smoke out.
Well, email me. I would say probably. I mean, I'm very sure I probably can do it. I just gotta check with my girlfriend who keeps my schedule, and she's not home right now. She's at work. Like I said, it's only because
that's probably.
What's that?
Probably 3 weeks out in the future. That's May 10th. All right. So May 10th, probably 7 or 8 at night or something.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure
I'm working off.
I'm pretty sure I can do it. So.
All right. Cool.
Yeah,
I'll get you.
Pretty positive I can do it.
I'm almost at town right now. I got to go because I'm about to get a pizza, and then I got no breaks. I've been driving with no breaks in the mountains for 4 months, so I'm really got to be on a game when I'm driving.
Yeah. Send me that email, and we'll set it up.
All right, cool, man. I'll see you. Have a great day, bro.
All right. Here's a link for anyone else who wants to step in. The God bothering team. So I'm going to do chores. The Tri-State Free Thinkers ARC protest in Williamsville, July 6th. We can hang out. Now, I live in Florida, so I'm not in the New York area anymore. I wish that the Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life was able to talk. That would be nice. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. You know that I don't have joy, peace, and love. Okay. Hello, Malcolm Glass. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks.
Glad to have you on. All right, I like to
Yeah,
just chat.
yeah. Thanks. I was emboldened by your saying you don't care about looking silly. 'Cause I think I've a very good speaking voice, and But anyway, yeah. Thanks. I'm the person. That's my alias, E-Man Kodama. I'm the person who said I'm not on either team. By the way.
Oh, okay. Are you using a microphone?
I'm using microphone on my headphones. I disabled them. I don't really mind using the camera, but I disabled it because, to be honest, it's a bit of a mess in here. But yeah, what is my sound okay?
Yeah, I'm having a little trouble hearing you. I hear you, but it's
I'm
low.
sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, yeah, I don't know what I can do about that. I mean, it's my headphone. I'm just using my headphones. I'm not sure if there's anywhere I can turn it up. I don't think so.
All right. Well, what would you like to talk about?
Um, well, I suppose the topic that you're talking about, this Christian God exists. I mean, it's a bit of a involved topic for me because I mean I'm not really sure exactly what the Christian God is. I mean, obviously I know quite a lot. I know the basics of Christianity, but uh, yeah, I was just thinking about this in your stream because I remember because I used to be an atheist, who was a big fan of Richard Dawkins and read a lot of Jack Minot, I guess, Daniel Dennett and Matt Ridley and Jerry Coyne and all those people. That was quite some time ago. And then I kind of what basically is a reading like I read Schopenhauer, which is like really, I suppose, a long way from Christianity. But I got because he's like a German idealist, but he was very influenced by the Hindu Upanishads. Believing that he believes that the self of every person is the same self as of the universe. And then I read a bit about the Upanishads, and then I got from that into Alan Watts. And so yeah, but why I was thinking about it is I remember once Alan Watts, he said, I don't know if I read it or heard it, but he said like when he talked to most Christians, and he was in America at the time, he said that actually their conception of God is pretty much like Vedanta. But I don't expect that's true for a lot of your audience because they're obviously more sort of evangelical and sort of regard that kind of thing as blasphemy. So I suppose everybody's got a different conception of God. What I'm trying to say, but but yeah, I guess I don't believe in the Christian idea of God now because even though I'm being kind of lazy about getting into it, I'm kind of getting into well, I've just discovered like process theology, which comes from A.N. Whitehead's book, which I'm too lazy to read. But that whole point of that is that God's omnipotence doesn't involve the future, so you get out of all that sort of dilemma about reconciling free will with God's omnipotence. So it's kind of similar to idealism, really, but it's basically the idea that free will runs throughout creation, and that basically God is I think it does have lures, which is a bit like the Platonic forms, I think, of ideals, standards like justice, beauty, and that sort of thing. But that's only but all creation has got free will. It's compatible with evolution, but not Darwinian evolution. I suppose that's another thing. I started to get while I was into Schopenhauer and all that, I was still kind of thought that any kind of creationism was this redneck stuff and all that. So I was probably about that. But then I got into it and I started agreeing with them. So yeah. So I suppose that's basically as succinct a summary as I can come up with what I think.
Well, do you feel there's any need at all for a God? See, I find that the only time that we consider the need for a God is when we don't understand something. So we can't understand a particular thing, maybe about the world, the universe, and then we can plug in a God, the classic God of the gaps sort of thing. But
Yeah,
as we go along as a species, we come to understand more and more, and then that gap disappears. And I've come to a point where I don't see any reason like there even needs to be a God, because everything seems to eventually have a natural explanation, even if we may not know it right now. So I'm kind of stone cold. I don't believe in a God at all, you know.
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I can understand that argument. Yeah, but I'm really sure that I don't entirely buy the idea that religion was just a kind of like way of explaining things before we had any explanation, because um, it was always quite philosophical. I mean, there was always an interplay between religion and philosophy, especially with Christianity and Neoplatonism, and they were really kind of into astronomy and mathematics and that kind of thing. Like Hypatia, she was a astronomer and a mathematician. Um, so I don't think they would have accepted that argument that just because we can discuss kind of things about more about the way things work, that makes the idea of a god superfluous. But yeah, I suppose I can understand it. But I just think that one thing is I think a lot of the answers that have been given, are actually false. Like the Darwinian, neo-Darwinian evolution by for things which, because even Dawkins himself said that the Darwin made it possible to be an intellectually fulfilled atheist by by explaining the appearance of design, and so that suggests that without that explanation, it's a bit more tricky. So, but and the relevance of that is, I think that that explanation is actually incorrect. So the appearance of design, is actually evidence for design, even if I wouldn't actually say it as, in terms of some, the way most Christians would see it. But so that's one thing. And then there's the other thing about the hard problem of consciousness. I don't think there was any, I don't think that they got anywhere near solving that, because, like neural patterns in the brain have got, absolutely nothing in common with the what they call qualia, the redness of red, or ideas or feelings or whatever. It's a totally different sort of category or whatever. So, and I suppose the other thing is, I don't know if this is probably maybe pretentious, but I kind of been trying to think about this for decades. But I think that in Gödel's incompleteness theorem is a kind of argument against the idea that everything is describable, quantifiable, because he said that nothing can be, no formal system can be complete and consistent. Well, he basically proves that. That's why I feel a bit pretentious talking about it, because I don't really understand how. But anyway, I could get the gist of it in terms of like every argument has, relies on its own premises, and you can't like prove those premises without invoking another argument. And you just end up with an infinite regress. But so that's a dumbed down way of explaining it, I suppose. But yeah, so I think if that's true, that there's no, that means that even hypothetically, there never could be a total I mean, like description, sort of out there, regardless of whether anybody could absolutely know it or not, but they never actually could be a true theory of everything, because well, just because of that, he's proved that it's impossible. It would always have to leave something out. So that's why. So I don't know. I just think that's more backing for my general idea that consciousness is fundamental, and that everything we regard as physical reality is sort of it manifests within it.
Now, let me ask you a question, because it just comes to my mind. When you talk about consciousness, do you feel that, let's say a person is dead, they pass away, do you feel they still have consciousness?
Yeah, I do really. I think they still have. I think they're still sentient. Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
so like, I was just gonna say, so like, if I were to pass away tonight, not that I want to, right? but if it were to happen, and I was found passed away tomorrow, completely gone, no heartbeat, no brain function. They take me away and they take my body and they bring it to the morgue. You think I would still have consciousness?
Yeah, I do basically. Yeah, I think there's something of you that carries on. Yeah.
Now, why? Like, is that just a belief, or do you have any evidence of such a thing?
Well, well, I suppose for one thing, it's more compatible with what I've just been explaining. My basic idealist, I guess, worldview. But that doesn't. That obviously that doesn't. The fact that it's more compatible with my worldview than it probably is with yours. I assume that you have a sort of materialist worldview or physicalist, I suppose. But yeah, and no, that doesn't. Sorry if I make too much preamble and everything. But yeah, it's just I thought about that. Yeah, because like the fact that it's more compatible obviously doesn't mean necessarily make it mean it's true. Because yeah, it could be that when you die, even if I'm right, and consciousness is fundamental, it could be that your individual consciousness just kind of dissipates and then goes back. It's like a drop going into the sea, and that's the end of you. But the reason I don't think that mainly is from the reincarnation research of people like have you heard of all that? Dr. Stevenson, and that's like Ian, I think his name is Ian Stevenson. But and there's more like modern ones like what's his name, James Matlock, and somebody Tucker, Jim Tucker. So anyway, yeah. So, but a lot of it seems quite convincing to me because like it's not always. What made me think it's more convincing is it's not always kind of sunshine and roses. Really, it's like there's some unpleasant stories. Really, like there's a guy that apparently got his I think he's in Burma. He got his fingers chopped. Well, there's this boy. Yeah, there was a guy who got his fingers chopped off with a machete just before he was killed. And then there was a boy that was born that believed that was him, and he actually, remonstrated with the guy who was the murderer, and told his mother to go and sort of get a policeman to arrest him. And this guy was born with missing fingers. So, and that seems to me two things that was, that's kind of evidence, and it's also, I don't see why anyone would make that sort of thing up. But there's lots of different examples of like that, of kids like knowing things that they shouldn't really be able to know. There was one,
so
yeah.
Would you say that nobody really dies?
I suppose so. You could put it like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's what I think is a general belief of Christianity, even though they talk a lot about death. But when you get down to it, they don't really believe someone dies. They either, their soul goes on to heaven or hell, or they're just living in the here and now. But it doesn't seem like they actually believe in actual, real, final death. And I think you're in that category in that way. You don't believe in a finality.
No, I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but I don't. I tend to more. I think because of that, what I explained to you. Even though there are other explanations, like even if you accept that evidence, which I suppose you probably don't, but there's other explanations people come up with, like it's actually, mediumship or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, no, basically you're right. I suppose that's what I mean. I have a lot of beliefs in common, but I'm kind of not in either team because most Christians, especially the sort of American ones who tend to take it, be more kind of orthodox, they wouldn't really like what I'm saying, what I believe. But I don't really agree with
you're not you're not a Christian as far as I could tell. I get that.
No, I'm not Christian. No.
Yeah. But you still have a belief in, let's say, supernatural things.
Yeah. I think that's reasonable. Yeah. I mean, because I've got all those ideas. Definitions are tricky, really, because some people believe sort of similar to me, like say, "Oh no, it's all," but then it's not supernatural. It's all natural. But it's kind of like everything exists. You can say is natural. So it gets into semantics. But yeah, I mean, I personally think that every time you lift an arm, or as we're talking, I think that's supernatural. I don't think it can be explained in terms of physical cause and effect that could be traced back to the Big Bang and all that. So yeah. I mean, I suppose free will is supernatural. It's the supernatural. Anyone who believes in free will believes in supernatural in that sense. Because
Well, again, I think we agree there's always gaps in our knowledge. So we agree on that. All right. I just don't know how, because there's a gap in our knowledge, that we get to insert a supernatural element to it. That for me just doesn't jive for me,
Well, I suppose, but I mean, I suppose the other thing I think, the other reason I disagree with that. I mean, I already gave some reasons I disagree with that, but the other reason I suppose the basic reason why I differ is that I suppose that's the kind of empiricist outlook, whereas you believe that all knowledge is gathered by experiments, sense data, whereas I think that actually some things can be known from I guess a priori, or you can actually make a priori arguments like probably pretentious Gödel one, but anyway, I think it's probably, but I think I'm right. But anyway, I think that they can be, valid. Whereas I suppose like most people who think that everything is only things which are physically discoverable and legitimate, I suppose that's a 17th century kind of dispute, wasn't it, between rationalism and empiricism. So I suppose most atheists are on the empiricist side of it. So,
I think most atheists, but I don't think all. So I kind of think atheism is broader than some people might think, right? I'm probably one of those that's a naturalist. So for me, I don't look at something supernatural as necessarily impossible. I just want to see what the evidence might be for me to believe in something supernatural. And it's not good enough for me personally to have a gap in knowledge and just plug in, well, it must be something supernatural. All right. So I'm a skeptic, right? I'm very skeptical. But I would fall short of saying it's literally impossible because I don't know if it's possible. You see? Now, I think you are a person, and what I'm sensing is you feel the things that you're talking about are a belief on your part. I don't think you're claiming you can prove them. Am I correct?
Yeah, but I think it's a rational belief. I think that you can make like a whether or not I could make one, make a cumulative case to convince you. I think it's possible to make a cumulative case. That the materialism is false, and basically most of what I'm saying is true. So I don't. I mean, it's kind of like the concept of proof is tricky because I get in, got quite into the arguing this flat earthers thing where I'm on neither team there either as well. Sorry to, I don't know if I'm just diverting just to escape your interrogation, but yeah, I mean, I have thought about all that, because but because they're always sort of talking about proof and it's like proof only really exists in maths or formal logic, doesn't it? I mean, otherwise it's just a matter of like inference to the best explanation, isn't it? It's like if I go outside and the roofs are dripping and puddles in the floor or over in the gutter, I think it's been raining, but I mean I haven't proved it because there could be some other bizarre explanation I haven't thought of. So I'm not really sure that talking about proof in that way is all that helpful. I mean, it's kind of almost kind of begging the question if you say there's no proof. You're just saying there's nothing that's convinced you, but that may or may not be, the fault of I don't know the evidence, I suppose, but. But yeah, I believe I believe it's a belief, but I think it's a rational belief.
Well, let me ask you a question that's actually a personal question, but not having to do with your life, just about your thoughts. Okay. So when I say personal, I mean it's personal, but only to your thoughts. It's not going to interfere with your life. All right. Do you?
That's good. That's good to know.
do you feel or think or have feelings of fear of like a finality? Like my mom passed away on February 1st, and I took care of her until she passed away at my house, and she was extremely sick. And when she passed away, I found her in the morning, passed away. And I think it's completely final. I think that is it. All right. When I think of death, I think of that's it. When I'm gone, I'm gone. So it's a finality. Now, I think some people might have an adversity to that, like they might find comfort in feeling that no, it's really not the end. It was the end of one transition, but something else new begins. Now, that's okay. Right? I'm just wondering, do you have any fear of like finality in death?
Well, not really. I mean, no, not really. Yeah, because I suppose when I was more of an atheist, I was kind of younger, and I was, still kind of probably immature as may or may not surprise you. And I was still in the stage of thinking I was immortal, I guess. So, but now I suppose it doesn't, because one thing I kind of think, like, I'm right about, consciousness being fundamental and all that. But, as I say, that doesn't necessarily prove that, we carry on. But the other thing is I'm actually more scared of, a lot more scared now of carrying on, especially because of those stories, stories or, case studies, however you want to see them, like the people who've been born with birth defects, due to what happened to them, how they died, and all that. And also, it's just a great big unknown, really. I don't. So yeah, I know I'm not really. But I mean, the other thing is though, I can. I see where you. I think I see where you're going. But I don't want to be too much competitive. But I think it's a kind of. I think it's kind of irrelevant, even if I was scared of oblivion, because it's basically kind of a logical fallacy, really. Because I mean, it's like an appeal to motive fallacy. It's kind of irrelevant, whether I'm scared of oblivion or not, as to whether I'm actually right or not. So I mean, it's kind of relevant in the sense that that could be the only reason that I think what I do, but I don't think, I don't think it is. I think I've got enough rational grounds for thinking what I do.
Well, the only reason I asked that question was I think there are things, and it's not picking on you at all, it's everybody. There are things we would like to believe and we feel comfort, by believing them. And death is something I don't think people generally feel comfortable with. So I think it's possible some people might hold on to the belief in a hereafter just because it's a comforting thought. I'm not one of them, but that's why I'm asking the question,
Yeah, but I mean, so isn't that what I was what I suggested though? I mean, you're kind of saying that the only reason that anybody, believes in personal continuation is all right, it's because, it's comforting. I mean, I don't, because I mean, if that was true, I think it would be kind of irrelevant. But I don't think it is true for me. It's like I said, I thought about that. I thought about or even if consciousness is fundamental, doesn't necessarily mean that we go on. It makes it more likely, obviously. And I can understand that if you believe that having a physicalist philosophy, you think the brain is making consciousness, then obviously, if I thought that, I would agree with you. Point that there's absolutely no reason to think that we carry on, and I don't believe in faith in that sense. I don't believe in faith as in believing something which seems to fly against the evidence. I mean, I might believe it in the sense of going with something, sort of, even though it's not definite, because it's like a helpful thing to think. But I don't believe in doing that if you think like all the evidence, contradicts it. So yeah, I mean, I think that sometimes I mean, obviously I don't know what motivates other people, but I myself, when I was kind of like a Richard Dawkins fan, I used to think I was more sort of hard-headed than other people, and because I could face sort of reality. So I think I could sort of throw that back to you and say that, well, that's a personal motivation that a lot of materialist atheists have, that they want to pride themselves on being tough-minded and being able to face things that other people can't think. So I wouldn't say that's the only motive, because obviously there probably is genuine intellectual honesty. That's what you think the evidence suggests. But but I mean, I'm just saying that everybody can everybody can play that game. Saying that you're only believing what you believe because you want to, or you get some personal rise out of it.
Well, I think we could agree that in the end, I guess we'll find out after we're gone, right?
Yeah, I suppose that's the ultimate, isn't it? I suppose, or not, I suppose.
I mean, I could
You're
go
right.
there because I don't see any. I have not seen any good reason for me to think that I'm going to go on somewhere else after I'm, dead here on Earth. And I've seen people die, not only my mom, but others. And I've never seen any supernatural phenomenon happening. And I used to work in a hospital where I had to take people to the morgue in the hospital after they were pronounced, passed away. And I never saw anything other than they were gone. Now I know people talk about, these, they see something, an aura, this and this sort of thing. But my personal experience, I never seen anything like that. I've only seen people pass away and they never came back. They never talked to me. They never, they're gone. And I don't have a problem with that personally. But I know like people who do. My own girlfriend would, that would be very frightening for her. So she believes in the hereafter, but I do think it's comforting for her to think that, so just the question was not to say that you feel that way. It was just trying to get an honest take on what you're actually thinking. Because I think there are people that can be biased because they just want to think something because they have a fear of death or a fear of the unknown, right? When we go into something that is completely unknown, some of us being human, we can fear that. And I think it's a natural fear. So I think spirituality, when people speak of spirituality or they speak of a God, I think it's a very real thing for them. And I think it's part of the evolution of our minds. That's how I see it. I don't think it's anything supernatural. I think it's the evolution of our minds. We have fears and we want to have purpose and we want to think of things that might transcend and go above us and that sort of thing. And I'm just very cold, I guess. I see things as real or not real. And I don't see evidence of anything supernatural. So we just have a different view on that.
Yeah, I mean, I respect the fact that you said that we've worked with, because I mean, I've read accounts like that of people, people who've died at sea and then they appeared to their mother on the night that it happened and all of that. So, but so I suppose I have to respect the fact that you're around dying people and you haven't seen any evidence of anything like that. So, but it wasn't really, I don't. At the same time, I don't think it's like I don't. It wasn't really what what I based most of my my opinions about this on that kind of phenomena. But so yeah, I think it's reasonable though. It's good. It's a good reason to be skeptical, I suppose, if you've been around dead people and you haven't seen any of these things that other people claim to have seen. But it doesn't really shake me much because I didn't really. I mean, I'm open to those stories, but I'm not really. There's not really like anything. Nothing like depends on it. as far as I'm concerned. And
Yeah, well, like I said, Malcolm, when we pass away, I guess we're gonna find out, right?
yeah, yeah. Or we won't find out if you're right. I suppose we won't. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah, if I'm right,
that's the
we ain't
factual.
finding out
Yeah,
anything.
yeah,
But I thank you for coming on. Really appreciate your time. And
yeah. Well, thanks
if you,
for giving me the opportunity about it.
if you
Yeah,
if you can subscribe to my channel, I'm always looking for people who are open to dialogue and can take an atheist perspective and not freak out.
yeah. Well, that's definitely me because it's basically my background, I suppose. So it's not. It's only the kind of the kind of strident people like like I suppose some of the skeptics like it's people like trying to think I suppose like Richard Dawkins, but like more of like the new atheist kind of people that I would find it hard to talk with. But yeah, you seem more reasonable.
One thing to consider, and I say this because I know there's all these different atheists and religious people and spiritualists and all kinds of different ideas out there. But this is speaking for myself. I like to make up my own mind. And yes, I will listen to anybody. But ultimately, I want to feel that I'm making my own decision based upon the evidence that I have. Right? I don't want to be overly persuaded by a character, a person. So I try to fact check things and.
Yeah, that's what I strive for. Yeah, to be as objective as possible. That's the best attitude. Yeah, make opinions your own rather than just repeating what other people believe, not rather than just wanting to be in a gang. That's what I think is the.
Yeah, I think a person should listen and digest what people have to say, but I don't think they should just take it as an authority and that's the way I must think. I think that there's a big value in thinking for yourself.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. Yeah.
So again, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, appreciate the invite on personal. But yeah, it went better well, in my opinion, than I was thought it might. Okay, cheers. Thanks a lot then. Cheers.
All right, you have a good day.
And you, well, it's night for me, but you have a good day. Okay,
thanks.
Yeah, thanks.
So another nice, friendly conversation. Appreciate that. Love to chat about these things. Today, the thought of consciousness, I think that's something that I don't know if anyone has a full grasp on it, but it is my understanding as an atheist and particularly probably a naturalist that what we call consciousness ceases at the time of our death. I don't think consciousness goes on anywhere else. So that was the big difference in my guest and myself. We just have a totally different understanding of what consciousness is and does it end or not. Because in the religious world, for the most part, it seems that people do think that consciousness is never ending. It's like you never really die, right? There's no finality. You die in a physical sense, but you still go on. And like, that's not me. I don't get it. I don't get the idea that you just keep going on and on and on and on. Right? It's a nice thought, maybe. Like I said, I could see how people find comfort there, but I just don't see any evidence for it. And if people want to find comfort there, that's okay. It's just when they make claims that it's an absolute fact. That's where I push back a lot, when people no longer talk about what they believe, but they talk about it as absolute fact. And that's what I get a lot in the fundamentalist Christian type individuals. It's no longer, well, I believe this. It's no, I know this. It's absolute fact for everybody, everywhere. And that's where I push back a lot. Hey, deconverted man. Nice to see you. Hey, Blino Gins. I appreciate you hanging out. What is your belief on the existence of any God whatsoever? I think something interesting that I pick up from talking to people that are spiritual, right, or believe in a religion, is that anything that is unknown or mysterious in some way becomes a place to put the God of their choice or the spirit being, right? And that just is fallacious reasoning to me. It's just not a good way to be, because just because we don't understand something, you don't get to just plug in a supernatural being or force. And we can do that, and millions of people do, but it's not really logical. It's fallacious reasoning to just plug in the God of your choice, right? Because when you talk to religious people who believe in different gods, they still have similar stories. Like, I was talking to someone recently who had an experience where they felt that God had helped them or just made them quit drinking and drugging. And that experience, I have known people of different beliefs in different gods experience the same thing. The same exact thing. So was it the Christian God who did that? Or was it the Hindu God who did that? Because I specifically know Hindus who say that they were touched by the guru and the Kundalini forces and power of the God came through and made them not have any desire to drink or do drugs after they were addicted. So, what was it? The Hindu God? Or was it the Christian God? In my view, it was no God at all. It was psychological things and factors that were at play. It's all in the human mind. Check out what the Lakota view is. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. So, yeah. I do know that human beings are seeking meaning, and they seek something that gives comfort, because it is a hard world, and it's particularly hard when you understand the chaos of it all. And as an atheist, it's not a matter of I left religion and I left my God belief. I did, but I had to come to grips with the chaos of the universe and the things that I have no control over. And when I was a believer, I would put those things in a category of, well, God is in control of these things, and the God is going to protect me because I may not understand something, but God does. And surely he's a good God and he wants to protect me. So that's how I would deal with things. But that was really, I mean, that's not a way of really dealing with things, is it? It's a way of avoiding things, really. Right now, as an atheist, I'm stronger. I'm mentally stronger. I don't have fears. I accept things for what they are. And I deal with fears head on. And it just works so much better for me. Geo Sam. Hey, Geo, do you have the ability to come on? Because I wanted to chat with you because I've thought about you a few times. And that's just because I know that you are a person who never really believed in the gods. And you have a different take. Yeah, belief is based on accepting or denying evidence. But our beliefs are often biased as well, because we tend to want to believe some things over other things. And that's very human. So we're not always unbiased. We bring into it certain biases. And that impacts sometimes what we do believe as well. People find a lot of comfort believing things that may not really be true. I mean, think of a child when they believe in Santa Claus. they might find a lot of joy in it. Till one day they realize that Santa Claus isn't really true, right? But there is comfort there. Hey, Gio. Hey, how you doing, Gio?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you pretty darn good, actually.
Oh, great, great.
So I appreciate you coming by.
Oh, sure.
All right. You seem like someone who is a deep thinker. I mean, definitely seem like you give a lot of thought to some of this stuff. And one thing I was talking to about with the previous fellow was the belief in the hereafter, how consciousness, he felt that consciousness really never goes away. Now, I feel totally differently. I feel that consciousness goes away when our brain goes away, right? What's your take on that? Having never been someone who really believed in, let's say, gods, right? How do you deal with finality? Like how do you deal with the idea that you're going to pass away and never ever be alive ever again, in the finality of death? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's a large question, right?
Oh yeah, it's serious.
Well, I'm in my 60s. I've been around a long time. I've seen a lot of things come and go, right? Now, and that includes people, pets, loved ones, friends. And I really have no reason to believe that anything else happens afterwards. I really have no, I mean, I could make up ideas, right?
Yeah, right.
But just because I have an idea doesn't mean it's real, because the ideas have to comport with what I see, what's observable to me. And I learned early on, that I had fish. I started with fish. They didn't last very long. Now, do they go to a fish heaven? Do I think that? Did my parents say, hey, there's some place people go when they die? My parents never broached the subject. They said, oh, the fish they're dead, Gio. The fish are dead, You could get more fish. Fish die, Gio. That's what my parents told me. It's sad. It's true. So you have to appreciate the fish while they're alive and take good care of them, because they're finite. They don't last forever, Gio. I'm a little kid. That's what my parents told me. So that was what the reality was started out as. That's the foundation, right? They didn't tell me there was some being up there that was going to do magic and things will be okay. It's just no, it just wasn't part of it. Never was. And that was the reality. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes sense. And I guess you never really thought otherwise, right? And
well, no. Only when I got older, and I grew up in America, right? Of course, it's a religion is part of this country, whether we like it or not, because that's just the way people are, right? Fine, that's fine. I lived with it all my life. I never thought anything was wrong with it until I started reading it. And I wasn't even a believer. And I was like, wow, when I started reading this, I said, are they reading it? Are they really reading it? Because if I'm reading it as a kid, and I can find all these things that are just wow, like out of this world and just wacko. Like, it's great science fiction. You know, it was one of the best. It was one of the best books I read to entertain myself and still be perplexed with all the mystery and magistry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I didn't get much out of it as a kid. So I had to reread the Bible. I've read the Bible 3 times from cover to cover, just for entertainment purposes.
Yeah.
You know, I did it as a kid, I did it as a teenager, and I did it in the service. I had nothing in the service. They didn't allow books. So they allowed 2 books, your manual and the Bible.
Interesting.
I know. Isn't that interesting? And I went into the service as an atheist as well. And that was an experience. Because they ask you, what do you want printed on your dog tags? You know, what religion? And then they give you 3 choices. Like, that's the only 3 there are. So I just put no preference. And they look at you like, huh? What do you mean? I had a drill sergeant run up to me and scream in my face why I chose that. I'm like, I don't have to answer that. It's like I didn't have to answer that. I says, no preference. How clearer can I be? That's the choices, right? I have 3 choices. I chose no preference. So what are you going to tell me what to choose now? Drill sergeant, come on. But I went my whole life. It's like, I don't believe that. They think I'm religious. They're just by looking at me, they can tell. How do they know?
It's assumed.
Yeah. So I went my whole life like that. And I've met people. I have lots of friends growing up. And I never said, hey, what church you go to? What God do you believe? Never once. The subject has never come up when I was a kid. What God do you believe in? I didn't care.
Right.
You had a bicycle. I had a bicycle, right? We both go out ride bicycle. Who cares about what God is? As a kid, it never broached the subject, religion. Never, ever. And I've been to church 3 times my entire life. My sister had a wedding in a church because she married a religious fellow. The death of my grandmother, I had to go to a church. And the death of my father, they had a vigil for him because he was cremated and sent overseas. But they had a vigil for the families to come and say their piece, so to speak, so to say, or whatever. So I've lived my whole life as if there's no God. There was never any appeals to God for any reason. You know, if I was having trouble, like people, hard times, right? Hard times. Oh, I need some inspiration. I need some. There was never once a look up to or a look down or a look wherever for something outside myself or my immediate family or people that I looked at as authorities that were telling me. That's what I looked to because that's what I had available. I didn't look to an invisible something that made no sense. As a kid, that made no sense.
I mean, I come out of the religion thing, so I understand like what it was like looking to the God, you know, and I found that to be actually really weak, like taking away your personal independence, you know.
I guess so,
I mean, I feel so much better now that I'm not in that. Right. But someone who never was in that, I'm wondering how you feel about death. You know, do you find death to be frightening? I don't, but you know.
It's an inevitability that, you know, it just comes with, it's part of being alive. So I want to get as much out of what I have as I can get, you know, And it's up to me. Do I want it to be crappy? Do I want my life to be all shitty and terrible? Of course not. I don't think anybody wants a terrible life, right?
No.
No. So I want to make the best of what I got that I know I have, at least. I mean, there's not once my consciousness stops, there's no reason for me to believe there's something afterward, because there's absolutely no evidence for anything other than what we observe and see. What happens to people when they cease to be conscious, right?
Nothing happens.
Yeah. That's why it's called death, right?
Yes.
Flatline. You can't. That's it.
Yeah, and the thing is that I think, and this is, I'm trying to work through what other people go through, right? Because I mean, for me, at this point in my life, I accept finality. I understand that I could pass away today. I could pass away 10 years from now, and who knows? I mean, this to me is just reality, and I'm not scared of it at all. I have no fear of it, because for me, it's like fearing nothing. I mean, it's like
you should
there's
embrace
nothing
it.
if you're not conscious anymore. I mean, there's nothing there, so you're fearing nothing. It's like I went through a surgery recently. For the first time, I was put under, and I'm 62. So all of my life, I was always conscious. I always was aware of what was going on around me. And when I went through the surgery and I was unconscious for a couple of hours, I woke up, and I think that is what death is. Of course, I was still living, but it was like death. There was nothing there. There's nothing I was feeling, nothing I was scared of, nothing I was thinking. It was nothing. And that's how I accept death as final, but nothing to fear, because it's like, does a baby fear what it was like before they were conceived? No.
I was going to make that point. Yeah.
I mean, that's how I see it. But do you, have you ever thought of feared death in your life? Was death something like that you had to come to grips with at some point?
Well, I don't, I'm not running around, with a death wish. You know what I mean?
Right. Me neither.
I want to live as long as I possibly can, and I'm not looking outside I'm not looking for any magical help here, because I don't think that's possible. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I can't. If it was true, why the fuck wouldn't I go? Yeah, say a prayer, heal my spine. I'm all for it, dude.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
Yeah.
I have so many things that I just get, as I get older, you just add another thing to the list, the thing going wrong, So I'm fighting that battle, as well as the battle of trying to stay alive as long as I can, to try and just be happy, be a happy person for as long as I can.
I got another question for you. As a lifelong atheist, right? Do you find meaning in life? And I ask that because I get from many Christians the idea that, well, as an atheist, your life has no meaning. And I mean, I don't get it, because of course my life has meaning. And I also want to live as long as I can, but do you feel, as someone who never really believed in a God, that your life still has meaning?
Oh, sure. Well, a lot of the meaning I give to life stems from humanity itself, like the things that uh, help to make us better. Like the well-being of people and people's rights and that kind of thing. It's not. It's more of a. It's very broad and it's less individualistic, and it's more of an idea that's all encompassing. So it doesn't matter what you believe, what you think you believe. Everyone is subject to this because it's just a natural way of being. That's just not imposed. It's just a thing that's available. It's not an imposed thing, or something that's when it compulsory. Like you don't have to be part of that. You can still be your own person and believe whatever you want, and still this option to be part of this other thing that is secular in nature that just takes everything into account without exclusion. I mean, that's the main thing. Did I just rant? I'm not sure.
No, I mean, what you're saying is it makes sense to me, and I'm glad you're here because I like to get the perspective of someone who is an atheist, and maybe some religious people might see this and say,
Yeah.
well, here's a man, a grown man, and he doesn't think his life has no meaning because he doesn't believe in God. Because that is actually an argument that I hear a lot.
Well, I'm constantly disappointed in our humanity, so to speak. I don't know how else to put it. Because it seems like we progress to a certain degree, but then something somehow wants to pull us backwards, So it's kind of every time we go a little farther ahead, we have to, like, society wants to sort of regress itself. I mean, I don't know if this is just me who sees that. And it's partly because of the religiosity of the country that's pulling us away from progression. It's a fear, I think, a fear of losing the hopes that they have that the things that they don't see are true, which is kind of
it's I agree with you. It's woo woo. It's wishful thinking, right? It's
yeah, but
I wish.
It gets in the way of so much, that we're so much behind in our research with all these diseases that we're trying to fight because of it,
And they're cutting the funding now for the research.
Yeah, I really am not a politics guy, and I did serve in the military, so I have some stake, and I did take an oath to the country at one time, so there is that. But I'm embarrassed now to claim my service because of the way the country is running, so I keep it under wraps.
Well, I try not even to get into politics, but sometimes you have to at least speak
I
to
acknowledge it.
I noticed the other day that the funding was pulled for, I mean, a lot of money was pulled out of Harvard, where they were doing research on a variety of different illnesses. And I thought that was bad because I'd like science to be able to solve some of these problems,
Oh, yeah. Well, all we need is another pandemic like the one we saw, and we'll see where it stands.
Yeah. But you have no regrets in your life being an atheist, right? You don't.
Oh,
you
no.
don't. Yeah.
No. Like I could have, shoulda, woulda, or
Yeah.
I don't know. I've met a lot of people in my life, come and gone, and they were religious, and those I don't know. I guess if you start off not making that a priority in your life, it's not something that's addressed right off the bat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not.
And I
It
think
wasn't.
you're rare. That's why I'm fascinated with you,
Oh,
because almost everyone I speak with
it's
in the
possible.
atheist community,
No.
the people I interact with online that are atheists like myself, almost all of them were at one time religious.
Mm, mm,
And we got a lot to offer because of that, because we can contrast what it was like thinking as a religious person
mm.
and what it's now like thinking as a non-religious person. And it's not every day I encounter people who never were religious. It's like that's rare to me. So that's why
Yeah.
I appreciate your take on this, because I find so much more clarity as being non-religious, and I find more joy, more peace in my life than prior. And I
Well,
find that it is very difficult for a religious person to even understand that. It's like they just it seems almost impossible that they can even understand that, right? But maybe hearing from someone who never was religious, and you seem stable minded, you seem you seem like you're getting along in your life,
for the most part,
all right. And
I've gotten this far. I mean, something. I must be doing something right to get myself this far, right? I mean, I don't know.
yeah, and you never missed or said, "Oh, I'm missing out on something," right? If I only was religious, then I would have so much more. I don't think you feel that way, right?
No, no, no. I've had religion in my life, but I don't believe. Looked into religions, but I never really took it seriously. It was just a thing. I mean, because of a lot of people, it was like this popularity thing. Like, why is this so popular? Of course, I'm going to investigate it because it's so popular, right? I mean, but it never went any further than that, than just looking into it and going, oh, okay, some people want to believe this. Great. Like, what am I telling them not to?
Yeah,
As a secular person, I would say, great, but believe, go right ahead.
yeah,
But then I go to myself, doesn't mean it's true. Doesn't mean it's true.
right,
You
right,
can sit I could sit with you at lunch and you can express your idea of Elvis still being alive, right? Now, I may look around and say, under my breath, Elvis still alive, really. That's a risk you take, right? When you espouse your ideas, I mean your beliefs, you open yourself up to criticism all the time, right? So they wonder why some believers, or I mean non-believers, laugh when we hear what they're saying. People who are learned, people gone to university, gotten degrees, and they say, donkeys talk.
yes.
Right away, there's a red flag, right away. Being a
But
red flag.
it amazes me that that's accepted. Like,
Yeah.
I think religion gets a pass. It's like, you know, if you were to say that outside of religion, of course it would be mocked. And of course it would be something that not taken seriously. But as
Right.
long as you wrap it in religion, it's like, okay.
For whatever reason. I don't know what that reason is.
Because I think that religion, and my take on it is, religion is like a sacred cow in our country. It's like you got to be hands off to religion. Stay away. You're allowed to believe crazy things as long as it's under the umbrella of some accepted religion. Now there are certain religions, what we would call cults, right? And even the religious people are like, oh no, that's a cult, that's dangerous. But at the same time, the beliefs are the same. They still have the same sort of preposterous, ridiculous beliefs. But as long as it's under the umbrella of an accepted group, a privileged group, even like in America, Christianity is a privileged group. I mean, I don't know how else to see it. And so if you're going to criticize Christianity, you're going to face a lot of pushback, no matter even if it's crazy things like talking snakes. That's like, oh, well, you can't say that snakes don't talk because it's a Christian belief. So it's a frustration that it's a frustration that I'm facing when trying to, have debate type dialogue with, the Christian people. It's rough.
To me, I'm at a disadvantage being brought up without religion. I don't have the insight that many people who were in the religion come out of it and become atheists. They become non-believers. The religion has made them. The religion has spurred them on to become non-believers.
Yes.
That's what most of the stories seem to be, right?
Yes.
Now, I'm starting off from that point, right? So I don't even have that. What you got, I don't have. I don't have that. So I'm at a disadvantage. A lot of times when I speak to people who are believers who have now become atheists because they have more of an insight into what the insidiousness of it, because you were part of it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. And here's the thing that's kind of ironic. They will try to save you and they try to save me, but they'll say that I never was a Christian.
Come on.
When I know full well I was, right?
Yeah, then nobody's a Christian, I guess, huh?
Only they are.
Everyone who claims, if you claim to be an actual Christian, I guess that's all you need to do, right?
Yeah. It's a very, very strange dynamic that goes on. One Christian is a real Christian, and the other Christians are not real Christians, and it's just a very strange thing that's going on out there.
All right, is it a pick and choose kind of who do you? What week is now the real Christian denomination? What is there? It seems like they're all confused to me, and they're fighting against their own beliefs. They're fighting.
It's very confusing, and I do think they're very confused as a group. Obviously, the ones who think they know, they're comfortable in the group that they're in, and the theology that they've chosen to believe is the one true theology, the one true way to see God, and everyone else is off. Everyone else, even though they're all under the same umbrella of Christian, they're not true Christians. Only the ones who believe exactly what you do, they're the true Christians.
Right, and it changes from pew to pew, from church to synagogue to synagogue to
right. It's a very strange thing, Gio.
So what do you do with that kind of? You got to play the bouncing ball thing. Christian over here or over here? No, they're the real Christians over there. They're not. You got to ask each one. But if each one is telling you they're not the real ones, I guess you narrow it down after a while. If you ask 12 denominations, who is the real one? They're all going to say they're each not. the real one.
They're all going to say they are the real one. You know?
So how do you narrow it down? It's like you can't even narrow it down to like one specific.
No, you can't. And a good question to ask a Christian that I find that they struggle with is, well, as someone who doesn't believe, where do I go to see the true church? You know, the one that represents Jesus fully. Where is it I need to go? And they'll struggle with that because they want to say, well, you got to come to my church, right?
Yeah.
Right? But they realize that that's kind of silly, right? I only got to go to their church, right? So it's a funny question to ask, and you get really strange answers to that question.
Yeah. What church or denomination would you suggest I join? Like tomorrow?
Yeah. Where am I going to hear the truth? You know.
I don't know. That's a very good question. See, that's not a question I would ever ponder within my life. Why I would have to make that kind of decision. This never dawned on me.
I think because you never were really religious, you know. But when I was Christian, I used to think about those things. Am I in the real faith? You know, the church down the road, they don't seem to teach what my church teaches. Are they really Christians? Because they seem to be thinking something different than my group is. And ultimately, you make a decision and you plant your flag in one group. You say, all right, this is the true Christianity. And the people outside, they might say they're Christians, but they're really not. That's like part of your thinking when you're a Christian, because you see that there's all these different beliefs out there, right? You know,
so you're starting off already from a polarized state where you're excluding others from the group, right? So you start off with that mentality, and if you run your whole life in that way, boy, does that grow as you get older, right? That kind of mentality grows and gets bigger, and then you start excluding like all kinds of people because of their shoe size, people because they like frisbee instead of soccer, and then you start excluding all these other things, people who like flowers instead of turtles, you know, and then everything is, and then they say, oh, with atheism, anything is permissible, right?
Right.
But on the other hand, isn't anything permissible with God too?
Yes. Yes. And the interesting thing is that there's a lack of personal responsibility on the part of many of these religious people, because ultimately whatever they do, all they do is say, well, please God forgive me, and that's it. Right? So there's a lack of personal responsibility.
Yeah, accountability is like low.
Yes. Yes. Like you can go out and, you know, murder a bunch of people.
Yeah.
But that all goes away in their mystical God world. As long as that person accepts Jesus, you know, and repents and tells Jesus he's sorry, right, then those murders are not held against him. So it's like, is there really any true accountability in that religion? I don't think so. It's like,
well, I have a saying. I don't know if I made it up or I heard it or read it somewhere. It goes like this. If there are good people in hell, there are surely wicked people in heaven.
Absolutely. In fact, from the evangelical position I come out of, yes, heaven was filled with a lot of bad people, right? But they no longer were bad. They used to be bad, right? The murderer, the people who did horrible crimes, to mankind, who abused people, it was all okay because they accepted Jesus. And now in heaven, they're good people.
Right, but the people, do the good people in hell cease to be good people?
The good people in hell, in the Christian way of thinking, were never good, because in Christianity, you're never good, which is another weird thing. I'm sure you've encountered that. Like,
yeah, that's kind of circular.
You are never good. Geo, you are not good.
What is that? Commanded to be well? Made sick and commanded to be well?
Yes, you are Antichrist. You're against Jesus. You are not capable of doing anything good.
Oh,
that's actually the belief.
I'm glad I don't believe that.
I mean, I used to think when I was an evangelical that I was wicked. I mean, I really believed that. And honestly, that's what I believed, But I wasn't the only wicked one. Everybody was wicked, right? And the only way you weren't wicked is if you accepted Jesus Christ and the blood sacrifice, that was made, right? And as long as that magic blood is put on you, then you can be considered righteous, because it was never your righteousness, it was his righteousness. Right? So you are always wicked, but you're just kind of fortunate that a man died and a God killed, had his own son killed. So you were the beneficiary of that sacrifice. But you yourself, you could never be good. This is what I used to believe, Gio.
Well, isn't there a line in the Bible about you're just as good as filthy rags, if that?
Your righteousness is as filthy rags. So even when you do something good, it's still worthless.
It's still crap, right?
It's a bunch of bullshit.
Oh my. Is that hope or hopelessness? I don't know.
It's a hopelessness that leads you to cling to a life raft that doesn't exist in reality, So you always feel, as an evangelical, you're never able to help yourself. That's really true. I mean, it's only God that can help you.
What do you think of this idea that the Christian God is a God of worry and strife? What do you think about that?
Well, I think that psychologically, that's how it works. I mean, the God doesn't have any power if you're not a person who's worrying or in strife. The God has power only when you feel that you have so much to worry about and that you're not good enough. So it kind of appeals to that.
So does this God instill worry and fear in people, and trepidation? Fear, and trepidation, and
I think so. I mean, look at you read the Bible, right? God is not happy with people, is he?
No. Very vengeful.
Yeah, he's not. Put it this way, Gio.
Uh,
God is not happy with you at all.
He's also very needy and wanting. He needs us to do this. He wants us to do that. We have to do this. God says we should do that and not do this and not wear this kind of clothing and not eat this kind of, and don't do that. And on Sunday, make sure you do this and you make sure you do that and make sure you only worship me. You don't worship anybody else. What the fuck? It's like a cartoon. It's like a cartoon.
I know, it is insane. The God literally is never happy with you. He's only happy that his son died. That's the only thing, because he's not happy with you and what you do. He's only happy with his son who went to a cross and was hung on a cross. That's the only thing that makes him happy.
So why the fuck are they praying? Can you tell me? I don't get it, Lou.
I don't. Believe me, you should be happy you were never in religion. I'll tell you that.
Hey, I tried. It's not like I didn't try.
Yeah, it's a crazy, crazy world in religion.
I mean, how many prayers do you have to say, for crying out loud?
Well, you're supposed to be walking in the spirit, like you're supposed to be every day walking in exactly the thing that the God wants you to do. And it's never to be what you want to do. That doesn't play a role. It's always what the God wants you to do. And if you don't know what the God wants you to do, then you got to ask the holy man. Because the holy man might have heard what the God wants you to do.
It seems like there's a lot of extra steps thrown in there for no real good reason. Like you could just, as a normal everyday human being, quote marks on that, or normal everyday human being thing, it's just, you don't need to add this extra baggage just to make a decision about what you're doing, right? Or do you?
You don't, but in the religious world, your world becomes more complicated, less simple, right? Less clarity. Right? It's a mentally destabilizing thing. That's what I have come to understand.
I don't know, man, and I wonder how people who do believe make decisions. I mean, I make decisions. I've lived my entire life, and I've gone through a lot of the hardships a lot of people have gone through without appeals to the supernatural or a God. How did I get through them without this?
That's why I appreciated you coming on this stream, because if you don't mind, I'd like to clip some of this and post it.
I don't know. I don't know how I got through it. I just used reason and logic.
Yes, but they don't understand that that's possible. It's very weird.
But that's all I have there, Lou. That's all I got to work with. Not much else.
Yeah, but you know what the Bible says? The Bible says, do not lean on your own understanding. You can't trust what you think, Gio. You can't trust that. And you have to go to the God to tell you.
Yes, but I find so much wrong with that way of thinking. It's like a top-down, like there's a pyramid of thought, right? The top-down is everything stems from this top thing, right? So no matter what the answer is, what the question is, boom, there's the answer up on top, right?
Yes.
But that's not how I live my life. I have a base on the bottom, right? I get all the information I need, and I build from there. And then I build all the way up to a top thing that says, oh, yeah, that thing is a thing, because the bottom, the base, I've built the base up so I know all the way up to the top. Oh, that's that thing because it has a base. I don't start with the top. I start from the bottom. It's a bottom up, not top down, right?
Yeah. It's a totally different way of doing thinking.
Yeah.
It's a totally different
It's
way.
basically methodological naturalism, like using what we see and what we observe and what we test and what's repeatable. That's methodological naturalism. That's what I've lived my whole life doing.
That's how I live my life the last 10, 12 years that I've been atheist. But prior to that, I lived my life, thinking that I had to submit to a God who would somehow telepathically give me some information that I could utilize. And you'd have to wait on the God. That was common in evangelicalism. So let's say you had to make a decision and you didn't get that wooey feeling, that you said, oh, that was the God talking to me. So you would be advised to wait on the God, because sometime the God is going to give you the telepathic message that you're going to feel something, right? And then you'll know that the God told you something. I mean, that's really how I used to live, and it's crazy.
Well, that sounds like if I were to ask my parents a question, right, and they really didn't want to give me an answer, either parent, they would say, later, maybe later, we'll tell you later, or we'll see, maybe later, right? The question never gets answered, and then I go, but Mom, Dad, what about this question? Yeah, well, maybe later, we'll see, okay? I mean, oh, okay. Left hanging again. Bye. But that's the God. That's the God thing. He's doing it all the time to everybody, right?
Oh, all the time, man. All the time.
What the fuck?
He's often telling you to wait. And you usually think he's telling you to wait because the holy people are telling you that. Because they hear from him, right? So they're telling you, well, God told me that you have to wait, right? Wait upon the Lord, because he's going to tell you, but just not right now. So you're left praying to the God, and really what happens in real life is one day you get a thought or a feeling, and you just attribute it to the God, and then you go, okay, now I'm going to do what but it's all you anyway. It's there's no God making that decision for you. You're just pretending he did, right? And that is the world, the psychological world of the evangelical Christian. I mean, I don't, they're going to be upset about what I'm saying here, but that is literally the psychological world of an evangelical Christian. When the God speaks, some telepathically, a feeling comes upon you, you got a thought, and you said, oh, well, the Bible says, and this thought matches up somewhat to the Bible. I guess that must have been the God talking to me,
Right. That's top down. Everything has to match with the top, right?
Yeah. And then to think that this is the prominent view in America. And then I get crazy thinking about how wild that is, that America is being influenced and directed by this sort of irrational thinking. That this is what is leading our country. That drives me crazy.
Yeah, so next pandemic we'll be throwing sticks down on the ground to inoculate people.
Yeah. Well, the churches during the pandemic, a lot of them were upset, right? Because
I know.
And all the prayer that was done didn't seem to do anything. They actually had to come out with a scientific type of explanation. It's like,
of course.
Just be glad, Gio, that you weren't caught up in that mess, because you could lose 20, 30 years of your mental stability in that mess.
I don't know how I made it this far, Lou. Don't know. Maybe that's the miracle right there.
Yeah. But don't forget, you're never good. You're not a good person. All right. You don't know what you're doing. And
Yeah, right.
you're in a lot of trouble because God is not happy with you.
Still? Even now?
Even now.
Oh, man. All his work for nothing?
Hey, listen, my dog's going nuts. So I'm gonna go.
All right.
But do you mind if I post some of our conversation on my channel?
If you find it worthy, sure, go right ahead.
I love it because I think that some people need to see it.
If you whatever, yeah. Feel free to use this footage however you like once it's all over with.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna clip it, of course, but sure. I think that some of the people who follow me on YouTube would like this conversation.
Definitely.
All right. I'm going to go because my dog was going a little nuts.
All right, Lou. It's nice to
thank you. And thank you, everybody,
for with you.
Thank you for joining the stream. Anyone who watched, I always ask, subscribe. You can comment. I'm open to, any sort of discussion. So please subscribe to the channel, comment, and leave likes. All right. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too, Lou.
All right. Bye.
Bye.